Hi there, it's WizKid, and this is part 2 of my video, redesigning my middle school OCs. In part 1, I took 2 OCs from a story I created in middle school, redesigned them, and gave them a new story. I want to preface this by saying I am a little sick, so my voice might sound a tad odd. The characters I designed last video are just side characters, so you don't really have to watch that video to understand this one, but feel free to. I will mention them a couple of times, so it might clear up any confusion. Jude and Malin, the characters I'm going to be talking about today, are honestly ones I didn't really care for much when I was younger, funnily enough. I still drew them all the time, but I didn't love them like I loved Lumi or the Heart. But looking back on the story now, I think that I'd really be able to make them into more interesting characters, and really the main characters of the story specifically. Now then, let's get right to it. The first character I'm going to talk about today is Jude. Yes, he was named after the Beatles song. Jude and Malin's story wasn't really anything special in the beginning. They were sort of just there to be a parallel to Lumi and the Heart. Jude was a kind, optimistic character that was very one-dimensional. He and Malin kind of fell into that soft, nice partner and mean, rude partner category. I honestly kind of cringe thinking about it. He never had a solid story in place surrounding him. One day he'd be a prince, then a regular townsperson, then like a rogue. I don't really know what I wanted him to be. So, his original design. He'd always be wearing these like bandages on his entire body, and really it was just because I thought it looked cool when I was younger. It didn't really make sense why they were there. I think I just wanted him to look weak and frail or something. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about his new story, and I'll hop back into details about the art and design occasionally. Jude was a classic case of a random baby in a basket on the doorstep. He was raised by 2 somewhat elderly women who owned a farm. They loved him like the child they were never able to have. Ever since he was young, things had been wrong with him. He was different. His fingertips to just about above his forearms were an unnatural color, as black as the midnight sky. He would occasionally say things that seemed far too intelligent or pessimistic for a child of his age. Jude stayed closed off from the world, working on his mother's farm, away from those who believed he was cursed. He believed he was cursed himself sometimes, and that there was always something horrible lurking just around the corner. He's definitely an important little guy, he just doesn't know it yet. If you watched the first video, you might remember me mentioning the universe as the creator who had many children, who are deities, and the Heart being one of them. The End is another deity, who represents death, decay, and is basically the devil within the culture of this world. He is also Jude's father. Jude was a total mistake, a ball of unchecked, chaotic, dark magic just waiting to explode. The universe told the End that this chaotic being he had created could not live, and the universe would send their other children to destroy it. In an act of desperation, the seal placed a seal over his baby, one that would last until his 18th birthday. It would conceal his magic and hide him from the other deities. He left Jude with the elderly women and told the universe that it had been taken care of. He thought that within these 18 years, maybe he could find another solution. Unfortunately, he could not. You may have seen the dog in the drawing. That is Mercy. She is literally the only mercy that the End felt he was able to bestow his son when his birthday came around. She's basically a protector, able to keep him from harm for the most part. When she bites things, their souls are torn from their bodies. Those little fish things you see are the souls. So, as you can imagine, Jude's 18th birthday was like the craziest day of his entire life. From then on, beasts and crazy people of all kinds began to chase him about, trying to capture him. He left his peaceful life on the farm, ready to live a life forever on the run. However, while being attacked by a beast, he met an awfully peculiar person. So that's it for Jude's art. I figure he still wears those bandages underneath, and I actually have a reason for it this time. Since his 18th birthday, Jude's curse has started to spread. I'll throw up some art of it. His normal skin pretty much flakes and falls off and gets all gross and raw. So he bandages it up so it doesn't rub against his clothes and stuff. Overall, I kept him very simple. I wanted him to scream dull, sad, and upset. So now, on to our next character. So our next character is Malin, and I changed a whole lot about them. Their name was originally Thompson, but that has been completely wiped away. Malin is non-binary now and uses they/them pronouns. I wanted them to have a very androgynous look, and I hope I did that well. In their original story, Malin was kind of plain. They were a trope that's been done 1,000.5 times. A cold, rude character that is sweet to only one person eventually, that being Jude. They were basically a tsundere, if you know what that is. Their whole purpose was to protect Jude, and to be, like, tough and stuff. They were parallel to Lumi, so also kind of were a knightly character. So, for their shiny new story, I imagine their personality is now quite abrasive and unfiltered. They'd probably just say whatever shit came to their mind. They're not very book smart, but are definitely very street smart. Malin's father is a deity known as the Hammer. Well, technically they're not his child, but he still created them. The Hammer is an inventor, a deity closely related to mankind. He taught mankind how to build, how to create for themselves. Malin wasn't ever born, they were created. Their body is sculpted completely of wax, their hair that of a unicorn's, and their eyes enchanted stones. Their wings and armor are made of only the finest gold ore, found within the depths of the Great Forge. The weapon they fight with is also a petrified griffin's tail. If you can't tell, I had a lot of fun thinking about this. The Hammer sent many of his children, or creations, out to find the only child of the end, once finding out they were still alive. He believed that he could forge a true weapon out of the child, and could use them to gain power over the universe itself. So, out Malin went, in search of this so-called chaotic child of death. Their search went well, and they were the first of the children to find Jude. They told Jude of his rather demonic origin, but twisted it around in a few parts. Malin told Jude that they were here because they were told to bring him home to his father. Jude, being desperate and confused and very tired, believed them. And so, as Jude's search for his father begins, Malin's quest to lead him in the completely opposite direction begins as well. I can imagine in the beginning, Malin has no care for Jude whatsoever. But as time goes on, they start to feel bad. Then they start to feel even worse once they realize they've fallen in love with him. Anyways, this trope has been done a million times by a million people, way better at writing than I am, but I don't really care. These are my babies, and I love them. As for their story, it's basically just an adventure that focuses on character relationships a lot. In my original story, I took a lot of inspiration from D&D, and just the idea of people going on adventures to eventually lead to one big final end goal. If you watch my first video and you're wondering how Lumi and the Heart come to play in this, they sort of act as the mentor figures at the beginning of the classic hero's journey storyline. I've always meant for Lumi to parallel Malin, and the Heart to parallel Jude. I'd like to think that that trope still works, and is kind of a fun idea to work with. So that's it for Malin's design. I wanted them to look almost a little steampunkish, maybe gladiator-ish. I think they look really cool, and very grand, so I like them a lot. Please like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want to see more of this. I may make more of these videos where I design possible villains, creatures, and just develop their story more as a whole. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great whatever time of day it is.